Hi, my name's Marty Vogel. I'm the sales manager at BERWICK MITSUBISHI, and I want to introduce you to the new Pajero Sport MY18 XE. This is a black one that we have. It's a demonstrator. We have a wide selection of new vehicles and demonstrators. This one's fitted with a few accessories. This looks really good. So it's got the bonnet protector and the general Mitsubishi snorkel. First of all, we'll go under the bonnet. We'll have a look. So this motor came out about 3 or 4 years ago. It is a 2.4 litre turbo diesel, has 133 kilowatts, 430 newton meters of torque. Has a high mount turbo here, which is a VGT unit. It has a variable vane geometry turbo. Basically what it means is the impeller blades can vary their pitch. That'll give you a better fuel economy, less lag and more power. You'll notice that there's a little bit of plastic around on the top of the engine cover, the air intake box, that sort of thing. The reason for that is that it's very lightweight, doesn't retain the heat as much as what steel does, and it's also recyclable. So overall, a fantastic unit. It's hooked up to an 8-speed automatic, which we'll go through a bit further when we get inside. Close this up now. Coming around the side of the Pajero, just at the front here, you'll see that it does have the HID headlights. It does also have LED daytime running lights. With any HID unit, it must have auto self-leveling and a washer sprayer unit, which this one has here. You'll see that this vehicle also has front sensors, four head front sensors and front fog lights. And you'll notice on the Exceed model that the Mitsubishi emblem looks a bit more like it's a mirror, and that's because part of the sensors are located for the radar cruise and the autonomous emergency braking located in there. If you come around to the side here, you'll see that we've fitted an aftermarket set of tyres, the BF Goodrich KO2 in the 18-inch tyre. Got a much deeper tread depth. Should be able to get around 100,000 k's out of these. And surprisingly, they look quite chunky, but they're actually really quiet on road. So they work really well with this car. And actually it looks really nice as well. You'll see that we fitted the slimline weather shields, which I really like. Obviously the car's black. The slimline weather shield sets off really nicely. The mirrors here are a good size, they're quite large. And they also have the indicator located inside. And when I lock the car, they automatically fold in, which makes it really nice to know that your car is locked. They've got what they call a smart proximity key, which is this one here. That allows you to just hit the button, unlock the car and climb inside. Effectively, you can leave the keys in your bag or whatever you like in your pocket, and you can get into the car, you can start it up and drive off without ever having to actually pull your key out, so that's a really good feature. Good strong side steps there. Obviously I'm not a small fella, but these are good strong side steps, okay? Make it a lot easier to get in and out of the car. Easy access for the third row as well. If you just want to come around a bit. There's plenty of room in the back there. These seats do fold forward, of course. Down the back of the centre console there is a USB for rear passengers and an additional power outlet, and if we focus up there on the roof, you'll see that there's rear air vents all the way through to the back for the third row as well. You'll notice that the fuel filler cap is on this side. The reason for that, same with the battery being on this side. You may have seen in some of our other videos, I call it the safe side. The reason for that is if you're pulled over on the side of the freeway and you're out of fuel or you've got a battery issue, you can put fuel in your car or you can get a jump start without having to be where the traffic's racing past you on the roadside. The seat comes with a standard rear spoiler, which really sets off the look of the car. Fits in nicely with the angle of the windows and the angle of the rear tail lights. No good having front sensors if you don't have back sensors, so we've also got rear sensors. You can see them dotted across the back there. We've also got extremely dark privacy glass, which is good for privacy and also helping to block out some of the heat. Although not as effective as window tint, I would recommend you putting a heat shield on the inside of this, which will take your UV rating from somewhere around 5 to 7% up to about 99%. If you speak to Kylie here at the dealership, she'll be able to assist you with that. Down here we've got a genuine Mitsubishi tow bar. It's rated to 3.1 tonne. Also has a 310 ball weight. Now, although it's not as tucked under as some of the tow bars aftermarket ones you might see from Hayman Reese, one thing Mitsubishi do when they develop their tow bars is, along with the full size spare that's underneath, they integrate it into the full 5-star safety rating. So this car has actually been crash tested from the rear with the tow bar fitted to make sure that you get a better result. With other tow bars, non-genuine tow bars, they're not crash rated with the tow bar on. So this is a much safer option. Have a quick look in the back. You'll see that this one is a full 7-seater. Mitsubishi do have an excellent rear cargo liner or cargo tray, which helps with the 7-seat arrangement. As you can see, it stays with it. Really great thing. Took this car to the farm the other day, put a few things in the back. You can still see a little bit of dust there. Fantastic. I'll just wipe it out and the carpet underneath will stay like brand new. Highly recommend that as a genuine accessory. Coming around this side, we're just going to hop into the driver's seat. Ree's going to join me in the back. We're just going to run through some of the features inside. Okay, so we're inside the Pajero Sport Exceed. Very pleasant place to be. You'll see that the seats are leather lined throughout. Electric seats in the front. Also has low and high settings for your heated seats in the front, which is really great in winter. Down here you'll see that it has a rear diff lock. Now the Pajero Sport Exceed, unlike some other vehicles that are 7-seater SUVs, is a genuine off-road vehicle. And it does have a rear diff lock, which makes a massive difference in really difficult terrain. You've also got your lane departure warning switch here. Effectively, if you drift out of your lane a little bit, what will happen is you'll get a beep and it'll remind you to stay in your own lane, which is a really good safety feature. You've also got a master switch here for your rear air vents. There is controls in the back for those as well, so the kids can, or the adults can adjust that, but you do have the right to turn it on or off from this button here. Above this we've got our hazard lights, of course, and we have a really cool thing if you've got kids. It's basically a seatbelt indicator. If you've got 3 kids across the back seat and you can see that only 2 of the lights are showing, it's going to indicate that one of your kids hasn't got their seatbelt on or they've taken it off, which is handy to know in the middle of a drive, particularly if they're getting a bit restless. Above here you've got a dual zone climate control system. Enables you to have separate temperature on either side of the car. The benefit of that is that there's really not as many arguments, I suppose. I know my wife and I, it's often a bit of, no, don't change the temperature. But in this, my wife can have the heater on to her heart's content. I can have the air conditioning on my side, and we're both happy. Above that, you've got a large display. Looks a bit like an iPad. Graphics are very tight like an iPad, and it actually moves like an iPad. I won't go into all the details in this as we have done in some of our other videos, but certainly if you want more information on this system, which is Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, we're happy to run through it in detail. But I can tell you a few basic things about it. It's digital radio, which I love. Has a lot of the extra stations that you can't get on FM. For example, dedicated 80s, 90s, old school, plus about another 40 odd channels. So really helpful. Of course, you do have your normal AM and FM, and you can hook up your iPod to one of the many USB inputs, and you can do your normal audio streaming through your 2.0 Bluetooth and make and receive phone calls using your voice. If you can plug your phone into the USB, you'll be able to access the apps function. The apps function will enable you to mirror your mobile and give you access to some of your mobile's apps like Google Maps. So if I wanted to, I could press this button and say take me to 27 Emerald Drive in Cockatoo, and it will bring up Google Maps and operate exactly like a sat nav. Benefit, of course, is you're getting live data from the internet, and so traffic details and those sorts of things are actually live and current. Probably one of my favourite features though is being able to SMS while I'm driving. We all like to think that we never look at our phone when we're driving, but I dare say that from time to time some people are naughty. So the great thing about this is, again, I can press my voice function button and I can say send a message to Christy, who's my wife. Sorry darling, I'm going to be home late tonight, I'll be home at 7. And it will send it as a text message to her, converts the voice to a text. If she replies, it'll come back up on the screen, I can touch it and it'll actually read it out to me, which is really great. So this is one of the best systems you can get on the market. Coming down a little bit further, we've got our gearbox lever. Now this, as I did mention when we were looking under the bonnet, is an 8-speed auto. You come down into drive and you do have a Tiptronic function which you can push to the left, and that enables you to change gears manually. Got to be honest, I don't use it very often for manual. It does also have the paddle shifters on the steering wheel, but when you're towing, if you're towing through some tight hilly areas and things like that, it is fantastic being able to use the gearbox to slow your momentum instead of jumping on the brakes all the time. It's really good for your braking system, keeping your brakes cool. This has got fantastic brakes, but you know, there are cars that have been known to overheat brakes on a long downhill section, but certainly not with this, particularly if you drive it the right way. Further down here we've got our 4-wheel drive system. So we've got a Super Select system which Mitsubishi's been running for about 30 years, and it has an extra setting to what a lot of the other 4-wheel drives will have. In this segment, vehicles tend to have a part-time 4-wheel drive system, or they tend to have an all-time or a full-time 4-wheel drive system. This gives you the best of both worlds. Put it simply, I can drive in 2-wheel drive when the weather's fine. As the weather deteriorates, or if the weather gets worse, I can move to 4-high. Now I can do this on the move up to 100 kilometers an hour, and that gives me extra traction and extra safety, and it raises the threshold for the intervention from the electronic stability control and those sorts of things. This vehicle has a centre differential. Okay, so if I'm going to go into a more loose surface rather than a dry bitumen or a wet bitumen onto gravel or into a paddock or something like that, I can lock the centre differential. Okay, and of course it does have low range. You need to come to a complete stop and push it down and put it into low range, and that's for severe off-road. When you're in one of the lock centre different modes, you can adjust your 4-wheel drive system. It does have gravel, snow and rocks, I think, and you can change the way the system distributes the power throughout the 4-wheel drive system depending on what sort of terrain you're going over. It does also have a downhill descent control function, and that's fantastic. You can literally sit at the top of a really steep hill, look down it and think, oh my goodness, that's really scary. Hit your downhill descent control, take your foot off the brake and allow the car to control the downward speed, which is really reassuring the first time you use it, because it takes away any anxiety you might be feeling about tackling that steep descent. Just going to come across to the steering wheel area and the dash area. So a really nice leather steering wheel. It's nicely moulded and shaped, fits really well in your hand. It looks quite nice too with the different functions on both sides. On this side you've got your cruise control systems. Has advanced cruise control, it's adaptive. So I can set the speed, turn it on, set the speed. I can't do it now because I'm stationary, at 100 kilometers an hour or 110. And the car will constantly measure the distance between this car and the car in front. And as the car in front slows down, your car will slow down. As they speed up, your car will speed up. But you won't go over your preset maximum of 100. I've actually driven from the city out our way, which is nearly an hour's drive on a Friday afternoon, set my cruise at 100, and just, the traffic was stop, start, and I didn't have to do anything other than steer. So the result for me was that when I got back to where I was going, I felt a lot more relaxed. So a fantastic cruise control system. It does also have over here a speed limiting function. Now that's for driving through hilly areas or anything like that, where you want to drive the car yourself, but you don't want to look down and find you're doing 130 in the 100 zone. So what will happen is, as you get to that 100 kilometre speed limit that you've set yourself, is the car will sort of stop accelerating softly. So you'll find that you don't go any faster. If an emergency comes up and suddenly you find you have to overtake a truck or something like that, you can just jump on the gas and it'll override it and you'll go past. It does have 3 safety settings here I didn't mention with the cruise control too, so you can vary the distance between you and the car in front, which is really good. Over here you've got some functions for your audio controls, but you also have your touchscreen there as well. So obviously you can adjust your stations and your volume and that sort of stuff. When you go into reverse up here, you've got a 360-degree camera, so you've got cameras at the front, back and under each side mirror, and that enables you to get this sort of bird's eye view of the total car. At the same time, it's also giving you the rear and giving you your sensor information as well. You can change the settings, so that's the curb side. So if I'm pulling up in a street and I want to sort of parallel park against the curb, I can put that one on. I can see down the side of my car how far away I am from the curb and make sure I don't scratch my rims. Coming up to the top here, electrochromatic mirror. This is a fancy name for auto dimming. So if you're out in the country and somebody comes up behind you and has a bung headlight, or they've forgotten to turn their high beams off, this will save you by electrically tinting the glass so it doesn't hurt your eyes, which is a nice feature. Last but not least, there's some normal stuff that you'd expect to find on a top of the range car. Like we do have auto headlights and we do have auto wipers, and overall the specification on this car is amazing and outstanding. We highly recommend that you come in and have a look at one and test drive. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my somewhat brief introduction to the new Pajero Sport MY18, the Exceed model. We got quite a few cars down here for a test drive. We are specialists at setting up full drives, whether it's you know, a long trip you're planning with your van, or you want to do some recreational camping and four-wheel driving. If there's things you want to do to your car, please ask for me, Marty. I'm an expert at doing these things. We can set it up exactly the way you want it. If you want to reach us or any of my helpful team here, you can call us on 9907 0555, or you can reach us at BERWICK.com.au. Thanks for your time.